Chapter 1. When I wake up, I see the Demoness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Heavenly Note Sect. At the bottom of the cliff of broken hearts. The river snaked past the mountains and forests. The sun shone brightly on the cold, clear water. Bang! There was a muffled sound coming from a small wooden house at the shore. The house had only 2 floors. A fence surrounded this small house. Spirit herbs creeped on the fence and gave off a fragrance that wafted in every direction. On the 2nd floor of this small house, Jiang Ho crashed onto the wall. A beautiful woman, dressed in thin gauze, moved towards him. She pressed a long sword against his neck. The blade sliced through the surface of his skin as blood spilled slowly. Jiang Hao knew death was just a moment away. This was a disaster. He had just finished trimming the spiritual herbs and was preparing himself to cultivate when suddenly, a woman, with flushed face and chaotic lifeblood, had descended from the sky. The woman looked very graceful, but her focus was muddled. She was either poisoned or possessed. He didn't want to help, but her cultivation was formidable. She had pulled him easily to the 2nd floor, up the stairs, and flung him against the wall. This was the first time he had been manhandled this badly. His senses were pretty good, but it was such a shame he could do nothing but endure this violence. She was flawlessly beautiful. In fact, she was perfect, especially if the murderous intent in her eyes could be ignored. It was early in the morning when she regained her consciousness and swung her sword at him. Jiang Hao could see in her cold eyes that she must have remembered everything that had happened last night. She certainly hesitated in killing him. "Senior, there is some misunderstanding between us." Jiang Hao really wanted to explain, but he didn't know what kind of misunderstanding was there between them. "Are you a disciple of the Heavenly Note Sect?" the woman asked coldly. Jiang Hao, too aware of the sword still at his neck, could only answer in a nervous voice, "Yes." "Eat this." The woman took out a pill and offered it to him. "What is it?" asked Jiang Hao. Bang! Jiang Hao felt a kick to his stomach that caused him so much pain that he doubled over. She pushed the pill into his mouth. The woman quickly grabbed the falling clothes draped over her body and wrapped herself tightly in them. She was surrounded by a pink mist. A moment later, she disappeared from the window. Phew! Jiang Hao heaved a heavy sigh of relief. He touched his injured neck. The woman's arrival must have been an accident, but her murderous intent was real, no doubt, thought Jiang Hao, as he walked over to the balcony and looked around to make sure she was gone. His heart was still palpitating in fear. She almost killed me. She is ridiculously strong. Although she was incredibly beautiful and they had spent a night together, he could not just tell her that what was done and she shouldn't be bothered by it, not when this was the immortal cultivation world, and she could very well kill him in an instant. Not to mention the Devil Gate. The slightest carelessness could result in a vicious attack. It's better to live in a peaceful world. Jiang Hao shook his head and sighed. He had transmigrated for a total of 19 years. He had had a rough childhood from the time he was born to the time his stepmother had sold him to the Devil Sect. If he hadn't had the figure and aptitude to meet the criteria for the Devil Sect's recruitment, he would have been sacrificed as a dead soul. If he could choose, he would join a famous and orthodox sect. Maybe the Haotian sect, which was the most powerful sect in this world. Unfortunately, he was stuck with the Devil Sect. Fortunately, after he started to cultivate, some changes appeared in his body. There were some new abilities and changes. Jiang Hao focused his attention and looked at the panel that appeared before him. No one could see this except him. Name: Jiang Hao. Age: 19, Cultivation. Level 9 of Lifeblood Refinement, Cultivation Method. Heavenly Sound 100 Revolutions, Supernatural Ability. 9 Revolutions Death Substitution, Unique, Daily Appraisal, Unlocked, Lifeblood. 100 out of 100, can be cultivated, Cultivation. 100 out of 100, can be cultivated, divine ability. 1/3, cannot be obtained, he let out a long sigh of relief. Lifeblood, cultivation, and divine abilities were accumulated during normal chores. Planting spirit herbs, cleaning demons and beasts could help him increase them. He could wander around and pick up air bubbles to harvest these things. Sometimes he even found magical treasures and cultivation aids. However, it wasn't easy to accumulate lifeblood and cultivation to reach 100. It had taken him a few years to accumulate it to 100 for a second time. The first time it reached 100, his body became tougher, and his cultivation increased from the 3rd level to the 8th level of the lifeblood refinement realm. Fortunately, he could digest it bit by bit, otherwise it would have been too noticeable. He went from being an outer disciple to an inner disciple because of this. At the Cliff of Broken Hearts, he guarded the spirit herb garden. It was convenient for him to walk to the sect from this place. Besides, he could raise his cultivation level faster here and didn't need to pretend to be ordinary like everyone else. The Devil's Sect. If he was careless, he might be killed by his fellow disciples for entertainment. He might lose his innocence too. Yesterday was the proof of that. Divine abilities were different from lifeblood and cultivation. Lifeblood and cultivation could be achieved when one reached the 10th level, while divine abilities required 3 fragments to obtain a complete ability. So far, he had only obtained 1 divine ability. But he was proud of it. Baby steps were better than nothing at all. Besides, 9 revolutions death substitution was a decent divine ability. He returned to his room and stared at the sheets that were stained red. He sighed and decided to change the sheets and his clothes. These blood stains had probably saved him from death today. I don't know who she is. I hope she isn't from the Heavenly Note sect, he murmured. Otherwise, if she is angry enough to kill me, I will be in trouble. He was ashamed that he couldn't protect himself properly. He tidied his bedding and changed into clean clothes. He left his house and headed to the spirit herb garden to tend to the emotion-severing grass. He would try to break through the foundation establishment stage tonight. His lifeblood and cultivation were already at their 100, which was different from the conversion rate of 10. I need to go to the library and find out what kind of pill that woman fed me, thought Jiang Hao. I must be more vigilant. Her sudden appearance is out of the ordinary. The Heavenly Note sect was among the top sections. It was strange of any other reputable sect going after him, but he had to be on his guard. Chapter 2. Heavenly Note Sect's Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Heavenly Note Sect. 100 Flowers Lake. The 100 Flowers Lake located at the highest point of the Heavenly Note sect was a beauty to behold. There were hundreds of flowers in the lake, hence the name. The lake water was calm and clear. Occasionally, spirit beasts appeared from the lake and caused the surface to ripple. There was a small island in the center, the Crimson Flower Pavilion. On this pavilion was a beautiful woman dressed in red. She touched the front of her dress and a trace of disgust flashed through her eyes. A gentle breeze blew, and the flowers swayed. A woman wearing a delicate white dress landed on the pavilion. She looked at the woman dressed in red with admiration and respect. Sect Master, you've come out of your closed-door cultivation. The woman dressed in red moved slightly and looked behind her. She looked at the woman dressed in white. She was incredibly beautiful, but her eyes remained cold. The woman dressed in white lowered her head in fear. Baiji, does no one remember the glory of Heavenly Note sect anymore? The woman in red was the sect master of the Heavenly Note sect, Hong Yuye. Before she took over, the Heavenly Note sect used to be a second-rate sect. It was only because of her that the Heavenly Note sect had claimed the heights to become the topmost sect in the world. On the very first day when she became the sect master of the Heavenly Note sect, she launched a great war and subdued all the scattered forces around her. The Great War lasted for 30 years, and blood flowed like rivers. In the last 30 years, the Heavenly Note sect continued becoming stronger and stronger, and the resources increased. The name of the Heavenly Note sect resounded in every direction. After the Great Battle, Hong Yuya began to manage the operations of the sect. In just 10 years, she distributed the resources evenly among the various offshoots, allowing the sect its own freedom and letting the Devil sect operate on its own. She had then entered the closed-door cultivation and lived in seclusion for 60 years. Please enlighten us, sect master. Baiji fearfully knelt on the ground. Baiji was one of the 4 guardian elders of the Heavenly Note sect. She had gained the trust of the Heavenly Note Demoness and had taken over the management of the Heavenly Note sect. If the Heavenly Note sect had somehow regressed in the recent years with no developments, she would be the one at fault. She was terrified. Hong Yuya stared at Baiji indifferently. She did not say a word. Aside from the sound of the gentle breeze blowing in the lake, there Baiji's unsteady breathing. Hong Yuya withdrew her unwavering gaze from Baiji. She had been in seclusion for 60 years. Everything should have gone smoothly, but at the critical moment, she was ambushed. It wasn't a member of the demonic sect. The cultivation technique which was used to attack her was the Azure Mountain's 3 pure parts. The method had been despicable, to say the least. The woman had hidden toxins in her body. If she was killed, the toxins would have invaded everything around her. It would have been impossible to contain it. That was why Hong Yuya had gone to the nearest cliff, the Cliff of Broken Hearts. That was how last night had come to pass. That was a method she couldn't defend against. Azure Mountain shouldn't have used it. Have there been any unusual movements from other famous sects recently? Hong Yuya asked calmly. No. Baiji shook her head. Azure Mountain is the most reputable sect closest to us, but they've been busy with the Tao conference recently and don't seem to have the time for anything else. Besides, sect master, you fought them before so they wouldn't dare to do anything reckless. Is that so? Hong Yuya smiled. Baiji didn't dare speak in fear. Keep the matter of me coming out of seclusion a secret for now. You can continue to take care of the Heavenly Note sect for now. Also, investigate the disciples of our sect and see if we have any spies from other sects within our walls. Yes. Understood, said Baiji quickly. After a moment of pause, Hong Yuya asked, Baiji, you aren't a spy for the other sects, are you? Baiji touched her head to the ground and pleaded in fear. Sect master, how could Baiji ever even think of such a thing? Hong Yuya looked at Baiji for a long time, then nodded and softly said, you may leave. Baiji stood up shakily, and turned around to leave. Just then she heard the sect master's voice again. Have the sect's information ready. Mark out the new developments. I want to see what you have achieved in recent years. Yes, sect master, said Baiji and left the pavilion. Watching Baiji leave, Hong Yuya raised her hand slightly and pressed the back of her hands to her lips and coughed. 60 years ago, she had believed in Baiji, and 60 years later, she still believed in her, but only Baiji knew where she was during her seclusion. When she was attacked, the first thought that came to her mind was that Baiji had betrayed her. So far, she felt that Baiji could still be of use. Hong Yuya closed her eyes and remained in silence. The Cliff of Broken Hearts. Spirit Herb Garden. Jiang Hao walked all the way to the entrance of the Spirit Herb Garden. He wanted to go in and collect some bubbles. It could increase his strength. This place was quite far from where he lived. It was around the center of the valley. The whole of the Cliff of Broken Hearts was like a valley. A small stream flowed from one corner. That was where Jiang Hao's house was situated. The place was quiet and peaceful, free from unwelcome people. The Spirit Herb Garden was surrounded by a formation, and the entrance was guarded by 2 outer sect disciples. They were both at the 5th level of Lifeblood Refinement Realm, which was indeed impressive. If anyone managed to reach the 8th level of Lifeblood Refinement Realm, they would be allowed to join the inner sect. He was at this stage. But to secure the status of being an official inner sect disciple, he needed to break through to the foundation establishment stage. If, by some reason, anyone was not able to reach the foundation establishment stage by the age of 40 but was still a part of the inner sect, then it would be better to take on a mission and leave for a while. Otherwise, they would be despised by fellow disciples and ostracized by others in the sect. Their cultivation resources would be snatched away, and they would never be able to rise up again. These weren't just speculations. He had seen it happen once before. When he had just entered the inner sect and went to receive his resources, he had seen a 40-year-old man of the 9th level of lifeblood refinement realm being ridiculed and robbed of his resources. Jiang Hao had felt sorry for him. He had given the man a medicinal pill when no one was round. The man had been so shocked by this that he fell into despair. Jiang Hao never saw the man again. He had heard that the missions weren't easy, either. 9 out of 10 people who went on a mission outside ended up dead. Chapter 3. Spies have their eyes on me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Senior Brother Jiang. The two disciples greeted him. Jiang Hao nodded and smiled back. He then walked in. The spirit herb garden was a vast field, and there were many types of spirit herbs. At the center of the spirit herb garden was a bright red 9-leafed flower. This flower was called the emotion-severing grass. The fragrance of the flower wasn't noticeable ordinarily. However, when the petals fell, the fragrance would be so strong that it would waft in every direction. The scent of the flower was filled with spiritual energy and had the power to make people fall under an illusion and be trapped in love. If refined, it could be used as an ingredient for 3 types of medicinal pills. The first was the spirit-gathering pill, which can absorb the surrounding spiritual energy and speed up one's cultivation. This was the easiest pill to make. The second was the emotion-severing pill, which can suppress the inner demons upon hearing it. If anyone took this pill during a great event like a promotion, the success rate went up by 20%. This pill was relatively difficult to make. The third was the Elysium world. This one was the riskiest of all. Eating this pill trapped a person in an illusion. If they succeeded, their cultivation would soar rapidly, but if they failed, they would die. It was extremely difficult to make. Jiang Hao looked at the simple pavilion in the center of the garden and walked towards it. As a newly promoted inner sect disciple, he had the duty of guarding the emotion-severing grass. He didn't need to stay here day and night to guard it. His main duty was to check the spirit herbs and make sure they were growing properly. Some other senior brothers and sisters guarded the garden at night. As he walked along the spirit herb garden, Jiang Hao saw small bubbles floating around. Most of them were white. There was only one green bubble floating above some spirit herbs. In the past, he couldn't choose which one he needed. The bubbles would automatically merge into his body. But now, a notification appeared on the interface. Strength +1, Endurance +1, Strength +1, Spirit +1, Spirit Gathering Pill +1. Jiang Hao remained indifferent. This had happened countless times after all. This was why he had been in a hurry to become an inner sect disciple. It allowed him to visit more places and to obtain more things. The best example was the spirit herb garden. As long as he took care of it and planted more spirit herbs, he could take as much as it gave him. Strength and endurance could be absorbed automatically. His strength far exceeded those who were at the same level as him. Perhaps one day he could be stronger than all of them combined. I need a cultivation technique or a divine ability to conceal my cultivation, thought Jiang Hao. Since he had nothing he could use to conceal his cultivation, it was risky for him to advance quickly. It would attract attention and make him an easy target. The air bubbles were of different colors. The colors indicated their quality. They were usually white, green, blue and purple. White was the most common among the bubbles. They spawned everywhere. The energy could be absorbed for endurance, strength, etc. The green bubbles usually held medicinal pills and magical treasures. The lifeblood and cultivation were usually found in the blue bubbles, while the purple bubbles had some divine ability within them. He hadn't encountered any other bubbles beside the 4 colors. Below the pavilion, a fairy was waiting for him. Seeing him walk over, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. The Heavenly Note sect had 12 main lineages, and the Cliff of Broken Hearts was one of them. The girl in front of him was from the inner sect of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, Fairy Yunruo. She was charming. It was the way of her cultivation method. Those from the Devil sect did not waste time to be charming, since it did not follow the same path of righteousness as the Ming sect. Every time Jiang Hao met someone from the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, he got a headache. But he felt strange. Was his spirit stronger today? Jiang Hao was surprised, but he did not express it. "Greetings, Senior Sister Yunruo," said Jiang Hao. Fairy Yunruo smiled. "I heard Junior Brother is about to reach the Foundation establishment stage." Quite impressive, reaching the stage at a young age of 20. "Just a bit of luck, Senior Sister Yunruo." Jiang Hao knew better than to be arrogant. But he sensed something was strange. His heart was calm today even in front of Senior Sister Yunruo. Was something wrong with him? Fairy Yunruo smiled. "I know that Junior Brother is a decent person. If he seeks to join other sects, he will definitely be nurtured well." "She thinks I am a decent person," thought Jiang Hao. He grew wary. He didn't know why other sects would say this unless they were watching him. He changed the subject. "Senior Sister is also here for spirit medicine." "Indeed. But the main reason I am here is to congratulate you. I think you will advance to the Foundation establishment stage within a year or 2. Fairy Yunruo smiled happily. "Senior Sister's words are too precious. Thank you. I will find some herbs for you right now." After receiving the list and confirming that there were no problems, Jiang Hao turned around and left. The Senior Sister was definitely using charm. Usually, it would have been hard for him to focus with a clear mind when the charm took effect. He found the herbs she wanted and handed them to her. "Thank you, Junior Brother. I won't disturb you any longer," said Fairy Yunruo with a charming smile. "Senior Sister, you are too kind," said Jiang Hao with a polite smile. Fairy Yunruo turned around to leave. After taking a few steps, she turned back and whispered in his ear. "Junior Brother, if I give you the opportunity to join a famous immortal sect, will you seize it?" Jiang Hao was shocked. He looked at her in horror. "Pfft," laughed Fairy Yunruo. "Look how scared you are. This is the method of some immortal sects who use us from the devil path to recruit others. No need to look so scared. We would never get a chance otherwise." She smiled at him again. "Junior Brother, you have to be careful. Don't be fooled. You must figure it out." She left right after saying that. What does she mean? Figure what out, thought Jiang Hao. Suddenly, this Senior Sister didn't look harmless and charming anymore. It sounded like a joke the way she said it, but it was also possible that she was telling the truth. If she is a spy from another sect, am I being targeted, thought Jiang Hao. But why me? Is she trying to get my help in whatever she is doing? Or, my own sect might be testing me because they suspect me of something. If she is a spy, then I only have 2 paths to take. 1, I refuse, and she will be killed by whoever sent her to keep everything under wraps. Or I agree to her proposal. But he didn't want to put himself in danger. Why not just continue to be a disciple of the devil sect and be safe? I need to reach the Foundation establishment stage first. Chapter 4. Learn the supernatural ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was already evening when Jiang Hao walked out of the spirit herb garden. He spent little time on cursory checks to make sure everything was alright before he left. Usually, he tended to the herbs so that there would be more bubbles the next day. If not, the bubbles would be very rare, and he would have to rely on luck. That was why he had taken a few years to accumulate lifeblood and cultivation to reach 100. It was only after he became an inner sect disciple that he occasionally came into contact with supernatural powers. He learnt that the more he tended to the herbs, the more bubbles they gave off. After returning to his house, Jiang Hao carefully observed his surroundings. When he was sure that no one had been there, he went into the training room and began to cultivate. The appearance of senior sister Yun Roa and her words had worried him. It was always good to be careful. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, Jiang Hao opened his lifeblood and cultivation. When he entered the school, he was tested. His talent was above average. If he trained at the same pace, he could reach the foundation establishment stage by the age of 30 or 40. He was only 20 and much earlier than expected to reach the foundation establishment stage. There might be a certain bottleneck after it. But it should be easier to break through. After a while, Jiang Hao grimaced with pain. The lifeblood in his body churned and his spiritual energy surged up. The heavenly sound 100 revolutions operated wildly, absorbing lifeblood and spiritual energy. Crack. The sound of transformation rang out from Jiang Hao's body. His flesh, blood, and bones went through a lot of tempering. If he could endure it, he would be successful in building his foundation. Crack. The transformation lasted for a long time. In the early morning, the sound disappeared, and his lifeblood began to calm down. His spiritual energy also flowed along his meridians and returned to normal. Everything went smoothly. Jiang Hao opened his eyes. He could feel power surging through his body. I've reached the foundation establishment stage. Everything seems to have gone smoothly. It's much safer this way. He let out a long sigh and looked at the system interface. There were some changes. Name: Jiang Hao. Age: 19. Cultivation: Early foundation establishment stage, cultivation method. Heavenly sound 100 revolutions, supernatural ability. 9 revolutions death substitution, unique, daily appraisal, can be learned, lifeblood. 36 out of 100, can be cultivated, cultivation. 41 out of 100, can be cultivated, divine ability. 1/3, cannot be obtained. I can now cultivate this divine ability but there is no reward, thought Jiang Hao. He had thought that after reaching the foundation establishment stage, he might be given a new cultivation method. Although, Heavenly Sound 100 Revolution was powerful, it did not help him reach great heights. He needed a more powerful cultivation method. Forget it. I'll learn the daily report before I go to the spirit herb garden. I'll think of a way to deal with the cultivation technique later, said Jiang Hao to himself. Within an hour, Jiang Hao was finished with the daily report. He wasn't sure what it was used for exactly. Out of curiosity, he walked out of his residence and appraised the wooden house. Soon, he received the result. Jiang Hao's wooden house. Built 3 years ago. It's made of green forest wood, sturdy and durable. It was personally built by Jiang Hao. It looks sturdy, but there are many hidden dangers in its internal structure. It could collapse at any time. Jiang Hao walked to the small spirit herb garden and picked up the air bubbles. He tended to the herbs. I will make some time to study architecture and modify the wooden house. Spirit herb garden. Strength +1, spirit +1, cultivation +1, ordinary spirit sword +1. Jiang Hao walked all the way into the attic and absorbed the air bubbles around it. It was the time of the day he enjoyed most. He relaxed for a while and walked to the spirit herb garden to help with its management. Most of the people who took care of the herb garden were ordinary people. They were very scared of the inner sect disciples in the past because carelessness meant death. Ever since Jiang Hao had been assigned to care for the garden, others weren't so afraid anymore. They felt Jiang Hao was kinder. His kindness wasn't really reputable in the devil sect, but he refused to kill ordinary people for entertainment. Fortunately, no one confronted him about it. Jiang Hao decided to keep his advancement to the Foundation establishment stage a secret for now. 3 days later, he met senior sister Yun Ruo again. She knew that he had reached the Foundation establishment stage. It wouldn't be a secret anymore. Fortunately, no one confronted him. After a few more days, senior sister Yun Ruo came looking for him just to talk and chat about their lives. She occasionally mentioned that being in the devil sect was not something she could control. She mentioned that when she was young, she wanted to be a good person. As she found Jiang Hao more frequently, his worries grew stronger. He extracted all his lifeblood and cultivation and fused them, just in case. A month later, Jiang Hao walked out of his house to a sunny day, but there wasn't any warmth anywhere. Senior sister Yun Ruo hasn't looked for me for the past few days. I wonder if she is alright. Or, has something happened? He walked to the library. This month, he discovered something very serious. Senior sister Yun Ruo was a member of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. She was naturally charming and was a beauty of the sect. However, it seemed he couldn't react at all. He had tried to awaken his feelings, but there was no difference. All this gave him a bad feeling. Although his heart was set on the Tao and he did not want to be influenced by anything, it felt strange. This had happened after he met that woman. He knew that the pill she had fed him had done something to him. Jiang Hao researched in the library for 2 days and still couldn't find an answer. However, he came across a rare purple bubble. Ability Fragment +1, it was a pleasant surprise. With an ability fragment, he would be able to obtain a brand new ability. Recently, the sect seems to be compiling the list of disciples. Did something happen? Jiang Hao heard people talking in the library. Compiling a list of disciples. Are they looking for someone in particular? Looking for a traitor maybe, said another person. Jiang Hao thought of senior sister Yun Ruo. He knew something was going to happen, but he had never expected that it would involve him. Senior sister Yun Ruo has been in the Foundation establishment stage for many years. I don't have a high chance of winning against her. Jiang Hao began to think of the worst-case scenarios. He hoped he was just worrying too much and nothing of the sort would happen. Chapter 5. She really was a traitor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, Jiang Hao went to the Spirit Herb Garden following his usual schedule and returned in the evening. He didn't gain much that day, not even the common bubbles. No one came to him to ask for spirit herbs either. Senior sister Yun Ruo didn't appear. Jiang Hao did hear rumors along the way about traitors in the sect. According to them, most were already discovered. They were currently cleaning up the sect. Fortunately, I don't have anything here. Otherwise, the traitors would definitely come this way. After returning to his house, Jiang Hao heaved a sigh of relief. He wasn't a traitor, and he definitely didn't want to be the one capturing them. It wasn't good to offend either side. The Heavenly Note sect was the devil sect, and everyone in the cultivation world wanted to beat the devil sect. Maybe one day it would be destroyed. He didn't want to offend other sects by capturing their spies either. Because traitors were the pawns of immortal sections. If he got involved, it would be hard to clear his name. There would be no hope for him. Shaking his head, Jiang Hao tended to the spirit herbs in the yard of his house. The ones he had were ordinary spirit herbs. It would be better if he could apply for better spirit herbs, but he couldn't afford to buy them. My cultivation is still weak, but it's too conspicuous and might attract trouble, thought Jiang Hao. It seems that I have to continue thinking of other ways. Should I just say that I got lucky and a bubble increased my cultivation sharply? Or, should I just go outside and never come back here? Jiang Hao shook his head. None of them were good solutions. Leaving was not an option. The outside world was far more dangerous. Saying that he had a lucky encounter with a rare bubble wasn't convincing either. As for betraying the sect, that was unsafe and risky. The Heavenly Note sect would never tolerate traitors. When he was new to the sect, he had heard about a disciple who had been in contact with an immortal sect. The people of the Heavenly Note sect did not express their stance at the beginning and did not pay any attention to it. 10 years later, when the disciple ventured out of the sect, the Heavenly Note sect killed them. Only then did people know that the Heavenly Note sect had been hiding for 10 years to kill one traitor. Jiang Hao was overwhelmed with his thoughts. He felt confused and lost. He finally abandoned all his worries and tended to the spirit herbs. The most important thing right now is to get stronger. He did not dare to increase his cultivation too quickly. There would be no suspicion if his lifeblood and basic strength increased at a rapid rate. He could also obtain more supernatural abilities. After tending to the herbs, Jiang Hao stood up, cleaned his hands and walked to his room to cultivate. However, he heard someone call him from behind. "Junior brother." It was a soft female voice. He turned around to see senior sister Yun Ruo, who looked very pale. Jiang Hao knew this wasn't good. They had met at the spirit herb garden mostly. But this time she had come to his house. And his gut feeling said she came with ill intentions. "Hello senior sister Yun Ruo. Are you looking for some spirit herbs?" asked Jiang Hao calmly. "Can we talk inside?" Yun Ruo smiled sweetly at Jiang Hao. No, definitely not, thought Jiang Hao, but couldn't say it aloud. He did not want to alert the enemy. "Of course, senior sister," said Jiang Hao. "Please." He gestured for her to enter his house. He was on guard. His intuition warned him that there was something wrong with senior sister Yun Ruo. If he was careless, he would suffer. Inside the house, senior sister Yun Ruo's smiling face became serious. She looked at Jiang Hao. "Junior brother, can I trust you?" She corrected herself hurriedly. "No, rather you are the only one I can actually trust. I have observed you for many years and I know that you shouldn't be in the devil sect." Jiang Hao was shocked. What is she saying? Does she think I am a spy? Or, is she trying to trick me? He pretended to be flustered and lowered his head. "Senior sister, I grew up in the Heavenly Note sect. I definitely don't think I can be anywhere else other than here. I know. I just feel that you shouldn't stay in the devil sect. Your temperament isn't suitable for this place. You should go to the Immortal sect. The Sunset Immortal sect, which has a legacy of 10,000 years, is revered by the world. I know that you have a good heart. I know you feel like you don't belong here. This is the best opportunity I've found. Whether or not I can go from darkness to light, this is my only chance." Senior sister, could it be that you are?" Jiang Hao stammered in shock. He was indeed a little surprised now that his speculations had come true. Senior sister Yun Ruo was really a traitor. She even wanted to drag him down with her. "That's right, I am a true disciple of the Sunset Immortal sect. I came here on a mission. My mission is complete, but I was discovered. I have no choice but to ask you for your help. Please help me hide things that I have obtained and send it to my sect. I promise that you will get a chance to join the Sunset Immortal sect," she continued. "The reward that belongs to me will be yours. I know that I will die here." Fairy Yun Ruo displayed a resolute confidence and appeared unafraid of her impending death. This was her sacrifice. She had come to beg Jiang Hao to keep the item and send it to her sect. Her resolve moved Jiang Hao. She didn't look like she was lying, but he still didn't want to do it. What if it was a trap, thought Jiang Hao. I know that junior brother has concerns. How about I leave the item with you in good faith? If I die, you can choose to report me. I have already been discovered anyway, so I won't drag you along with me. It won't do me any good, anyway, said Fairy Yun Ruo. She took out a jade pendant which was carved with a mysterious symbol. It didn't look ordinary. Jiang Hao frowned. Will I get into trouble if I refuse? Thought Jiang Hao. Will she kill me? Would a righteous sect disciple be as ruthless as a devil sect disciple? Jiang Hao was unable to figure out anything with certainty. Besides, a curious fragrance kept wafting from around senior sister Yun Ruo. Junior brother. Fairy Yun Ruo bit her lip and looked at Jiang Hao pitifully. Jiang Hao, just for a moment, felt as though she might be trustworthy. He was about to take the pendant when he sensed that something was definitely wrong. An idea flashed through his mind. He activated his divine ability of daily appraisal. Appraise senior sister Yun Ruo. He silently activated the ability. Chapter 6. Appraisal result. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Hao had used that ability on many things. He had tried it on mountains, houses, flowers, trees. But never had he used it on a person. The situation confused him, so appraising her wasn't such a bad idea. The avatar activated and invisible symbols flashed before his eyes. The symbols reflected senior sister Yun Ruo in front of him. In an instant, every information about her flashed in his mind. It's effective. Jiang Hao was delighted. However, what he saw in his mind made his blood run cold. Yun Ruo. Early Foundation Establishment Stage, an inner sect disciple of the Sunset Sect, undercover in the Heavenly Note Sect, in order to find out the whereabouts of the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower. Because her identity is about to be exposed, she urgently needed a scapegoat. Seeing that you didn't act like a typical devil sect disciple, she targeted you. You fit the role of a scapegoat perfectly. She has been using enchantments on you to influence your mind. Once you agreed, she would kill you in her place as a traitor. How vicious, thought Jiang Hao. She acted so charming and resolute. The jade pendant was right in front of him. If he took it, she would use him as a scapegoat and have him killed. If he refused, maybe she would kill him anyway. She had been in the Foundation Establishment Stage for many years now. He must tread carefully. Jiang Hao realized that it would be very difficult for him to win against her in direct combat. Jiang Hao tried to think of a way. He extended his hand, pretending to take the jade pendant. Just before he touched it, he looked behind senior sister Yun Ruo in mock fear. Master, he stammered. Fairy Yun Ruo snapped around to look behind her. A spirit sword appeared in her hands. A stream of aura locked onto Jiang Hao. She intended to use him as a shield to defend herself. The jade pendant was dropped on the floor. Now, whoever was left would look guilty. She ran forward shouting, Jiang Hao is the traitor, he. Fairy Yun Ruo froze. He had intended to let Jiang Hao take the fall but realized that there was no one there. It was too late for her to turn around. A dagger flashed and stabbed her in the neck. He had intended to kill her with one strike. He had no chance of winning in a direct confrontation against her. He didn't mind sneaking from behind. He had no intention of harming anyone, ever. He had never targeted anyone in his life. He just wanted to live peacefully and get stronger. But if others wanted to take advantage of his temperament and attack him, then he had the right to defend himself. Bang! The moment the dagger stabbed into her neck, Fairy Yun Ruo cast a spell to force Jiang Hao back. You! Jiang Hao's decisiveness shocked her. It shocked Jiang Hao himself as well. She had observed him for many days now and knew Jiang Hao's nature. He was always kind and calm. He was ANA.VE an ignorant newbie who would die sooner or later in the Heavenly Note sect. She had not expected him to act this way. Senior sister Yun Ruo seemed astonished. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. Instead, he took out his spirit sword and stabbed her, hoping this would be the last time. Her strength had reduced drastically but she was still alive. Jiang Hao's sword rose and fell on her. She raised her own to deflect him. Light sword and shadow sword clashed, and sparks shot out in every direction. Bang! Yun Roa was heavily injured and couldn't match up to him. She was sent flying backwards into the courtyard. She fell to the ground and clutched at her wounded neck in horror as she watched Jiang Hao approach. "Junior brother," she said raggedly. "You can't kill me. The master of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion thinks highly of me. He covets me. If you kill me, he will hold a grudge against you." Jiang Hao ignored her words and raised his sword again. "I am still a disciple of the Sunset Sect. The senior brother there is infatuated with me. If you kill me, they won't let you go. You will be skinned and your bones." The sword fell one last time and everything went quiet. He stabbed her once more to make sure she was really dead. Jiang Hao felt distressed looking at her dead body. He wasn't used to killing people so ruthlessly. But he was in the Devil's Sect, he will have to get used to it sooner or later. The cultivation world was brutal. It didn't wait for you to get accustomed to things. He stared at her dead form for a long while. He finally left the place to look for the Cliff Master of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. He was the one Jiang Hao had acknowledged as his master when he had entered the sect. Because Jiang Hao was still new and wasn't familiar with things, he was only allowed to listen to his master's lectures when he held it with other disciples. Jiang Hao mostly relied on himself for his cultivation. He debated against not reporting the incident. But he realized that the more he hid it, the more he would be susceptible to suspicion from others. It would be worse if they assumed he was an accomplice just because he had hidden the incident. The consequences would be unthinkable. Jiang found the master and brought him to the courtyard of his house. "You killed her." A middle-aged man lowered his head and asked softly as he looked at dead fairy Yun Ruo. His expression was melancholy, and his eyes were cold. It seemed the master had seen many things in his lifetime, and nothing surprised him anymore. He was the Cliff Master, Ku Wu Chang, of the Cliff of Broken Hearts, after all. "She was my fellow disciple." Jiang Hao lowered his head. "Tell me what happened," said Master Ku Wu Chang looking at Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao blurted out everything that had come to pass. "I just wanted to injure her so she couldn't attack me. But I didn't expect her to go all out. So, I, too, attacked her." "When did you build your foundation?" asked Master Ku Wu Chang. "Last month," Jiang Hao answered nervously. "So, you chose to launch a sneak attack?" "Yes. You don't have to worry about this matter. If there are any problems in the future, the people from the law enforcement hall will probably look for you. Remember to cooperate with them." Master Ku Wu Chang then took senior sister Yun Rio's body away. Jiang Hao sighed with relief as he watched him leave with the body. "I wonder how the Heavenly Joy Pavilion will react. As for the Sunset Sect, I can avoid them as long as I don't go out," Jiang Hao convinced himself. "I don't care if it takes 10 or 100 years for them to forget about senior sister Yun Ruo. Even if they don't, I will get stronger by then." Chapter 7. Hong Yuye saw Jiang Hao's name. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It had been 7 days since he killed senior sister Yun Ruo. He had spent it anxiously, but no one had come looking for him. The only thing he gained from the whole incident was that the effect of the daily appraisal ability was much stronger than he had expected. He had begun to secretly appraise people. He did not find anyone of consequence so far. So, he stopped appraising them to avoid wasting his appraisal ability. It was interesting to find out that he could appraise himself. When he did appraise himself, the result was such that the heaven extinction goo poison yang goo in the body will be forced to enter the sage state except with the woman who had the yin goo. Jiang Hao sighed. The pill that woman had forced fed him was the goo poison. The recent changes in his body were also because of it. He wasn't sure whether that was a blessing or a curse. Senior sister Yun Ruo had used enchantments on him, and it hadn't worked. He knew it had something to do with the goo poison. He shuddered to think what would have happened otherwise. There were many people in the devil's sect who knew enchantments. Maybe this was a good thing. Being a male, beauty was a weakness. Jiang Hao didn't want to fall prey to that weakness. He would obviously be killed. He brushed off his thoughts and went to the spirit garden to keep himself busy. Every time he went there, he found something to make him stronger. But someone blocked his way at the door. There were 3 young men, each stronger than him. They looked very solemn. Their bodies emitted a faint, murderous aura. Jiang Hao didn't want to take any chances. He activated his daily appraisal. The man in the lead was dressed all in black. His eyebrows were as sharp as a sword and his face looked like it was sculpted out of marble. He could be considered handsome by some. Lu Xingchen. A true disciple of the heavenly faction. Born with the aura of a dragon and in the late stage of the Golden Core realm. He is bored and wants to spy on the Heavenly Note Sect's law enforcement hall. He is looking for you to calm the Heavenly Joy Pavilion's anger. Jiang Hao's heart was pounding. Isn't the heavenly faction known as the most powerful immortal sect? Why would such a person come to the Heavenly Note Sect to spy, thought Jiang Hao anxiously. He bowed his head respectfully to greet them. We are from the law enforcement hall. We are here about the incident that occurred 7 days ago. We have a few questions to ask you, said Lu Xingchen, indifferently. Of course, senior brother. Jiang Hao was terrified but he maintained his composure. The words, Heavenly Joy Pavilion's anger, made him worried. You killed junior sister Yunruo? Lu Xingchen asked. Yes. Jiang Hao nodded. Why did you kill her? Asked Lu Xingchen. She betrayed the sect and tried to force me to betray them, too. I did not intend to kill her but in the end, I accidentally did, said Jiang Hao. She was a member of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. It's not up to the Cliff of Broken Hearts to take care of her, said Lu Xingchen coldly. You violated the sect's rules by killing a disciple of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, Lu Xingchen continued. However, in consideration of the reason you mentioned, you will only be deprived of 5 years of cultivation resources. Within 3 months, you are expected to pay 1,000 spirit stones to the Heavenly Joy Pavilion as compensation. In addition, since Yunruo is a traitor to the sect and you were the last person she met, you aren't allowed to leave the sect for now. You need to cooperate with our investigations. If you do leave, it will be treated as a judgment, and you will be found guilty. We will inform you when the investigation is over. Jiang Hao was frozen on the spot. He, of course, had no qualms in cooperating with their investigation but paying with 1,000 spirit stones. As an inner disciple, I only get 10 spirit stones per month. Where will I get 1,000 of them? Thought Jiang Hao in disbelief. Heavenly Joy Pavilion was worthy of being a devil sect in their ruthlessness, indeed. Seeing Jiang Hao silent, Lu Xingchen said, Do you have any questions? Jiang Hao was brought back to reality. He lowered his head. No. The 3 men from the law enforcement hall uttered a goodbye and left. Jiang Hao sighed. Is the Cliff of Broken Hearts too weak or am I too unimportant for them? Lamented Jiang Hao. This is just plain bullying. 1,000 spirit stones in 3 months. What will happen to me if I am unable to collect them? Will they kill me? Having reached the foundation establishment stage at just 19 years of age is very rare. Maybe the Cliff of Broken Hearts will protect me, wished Jiang Hao. With a heavy heart, Jiang Hao walked to the spirit herb garden. Not only did he need to increase his cultivation some other way but also needed to find a way to earn 1,000 spirit stones in 3 months. He felt that the beautiful woman who had poisoned him was a disaster. Maybe if the poison hadn't actually saved him from enchantments, he would be dead by now and didn't have to worry about paying 1,000 spirit stones. It was not advisable for him to provoke a fight with the 3 men. The one who had questioned him was at the late stage of the Golden Core realm. There was no way he could even think about beating him. Jiang Hao was only at the earliest stage of the Foundation establishment stage. As for exposing them as a spy, that would really be courting death. That would be suicide. In the cultivation world, cultivation was divided into lifeblood refinement realm, Foundation establishment stage, golden core realm, primordial spirit realm, spirit refinement realm, and return to void. At the highest point of the heavenly note sect, on a pavilion in the center of the 100 Flowers Lake sat Hong Yuye gazing at the flowers in a daze. A gentle wind blew, and a white figure landed behind Hong Yuye. Aiji bowed respectfully. Sect Master, she greeted. Hong Yuye didn't turn around. She said softly, what's the matter? I've compiled a list of suspicious disciples and a list of traitors. It's ready for you to see. Baiji handed the list over to Hong Yuye. There were detailed records of the people, including their origins, cultivation levels and suspicious behaviors. They were either spies, traitors or suspects. After a cursory glance, her eyes stopped at the very end. Jiang Hao. An inner sect disciple of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Early stage of the Foundation establishment stage. Chapter 8. Heavenly Fragrance Dao Flower Seed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hong Yuye's gaze lingered on Jiang Hao's name. She then closed the list. There aren't any outstanding people, she said. Most of them are outer sect disciples. There are only a few traitors and suspects among the inner sect disciples. Their status isn't high. The other successive disciples, the deacons and elders, need to investigate further. They still need some time, Baiji said hurriedly. Not a single person of importance had made it on the list of suspects. Baiji was relieved. However, if the sect master was sure that there was a spy, then possibly, there might be people of importance involved in this. It was just difficult to find out in such a short period of time. Some people are difficult to expose. They lurk below the shadows. Hong Yuye's voice was calm. She looked at the list again. Her eyes were fixed on a name at the very end of the list. What is the background of Jiang Hao from the Cliff of Broken Hearts? His background is actually very clean. He was sold to the sect at a young age. His talent is above average. He is on the suspect list because he seemed to be connected to the traitor of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. His promotion was a little strange, too. A few years ago, he went out for a trip, and his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. He said that he ate a strange fruit and obtained a fortuitous encounter, continued Baiji. Some time ago, he broke through the Foundation establishment stage. Normally, this wouldn't raise any eyebrows, but a traitor died by his hands. There is a possibility that the Heavenly Joy Pavilion instigated this rebellion and provoked him. What about his usual behavior? Hong Yuye asked indifferently. He has a gentle personality. He doesn't make enemies and never speaks ill of the ordinary people. He doesn't seem like a typical sect disciple. Baiji had wanted to say that he didn't really seem like a devil sect disciple, but corrected herself just in time in order not to offend the sect master. Hong Yuye didn't say anything. There was no emotion in her eyes. Jiang Hao killed a member of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. She was using her charm, so it's likely that she tried to convince him to turn against the sect, said Baiji after a long pause. Although there is no evidence that he might be a traitor, it's still very suspicious. Then let's test him. We can also use him as bait for those traitors who are hiding in the dark, said Hong Yuye. I don't understand what the sect master meant. Baiji lowered her head. She was confused. A few moments later, she saw a faint light. She looked up to see a seed land in front of her. It was half black and half white. After the light faded, it looked like an ordinary seed the size of a quail's egg. Baiji's eyes widened. This is. Hong Yuye laughed. Many people coveted it. You take it and give it to that man who lives at the bottom of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Tell him to plant it carefully. It won't take long for the others hiding in the dark to come to the surface. But, said Baiji in shock. What if the man runs away with it? Isn't that your business to take care of? Asked Hong Yuya as she turned to look at Baiji. Baiji flinched and didn't dare ask anything else. I'll do it right away. After Baiji left the 100 Flowers Lake, her fear was swept away, and she, once again, appeared noble and powerful. She walked in the mountain forest. No matter if it was a guardian or an elder, they had to bow their heads and respect her not only because she was the present sect master but also because she was very powerful. However, at this moment, she was quite confused. She looked at the seed in her hand and became even more perplexed. The seed of the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. Is it worth using something this precious to test an inner sect disciple and lure out other traitors, thought Baiji. It was definitely not worth it. But Baiji knew better than to doubt the sect master. She must have some other plan in her mind. Is it because of this person's problem, or is it because there is someone strong among the traitors? Baiji sighed and pushed away her thoughts. The sect master came out of seclusion and was trying to find the traitors. Now, she had given her the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. Something must have happened. It is said that the heavenly fragrance Dao flower is the reason why the sect master is so powerful. Baiji looked at the seed in her hand. It would be a lie to say she wasn't a little tempted. If she could have the seed for herself, she might soar to the sky. Baiji shivered and broke out in cold sweat. She realized now that the first person the sect master had intended to test was herself. She couldn't bear to look at the seed anymore and wanted to get rid of it from her hands as soon as possible. If she gave in to her temptations, she might be doomed. However, she did feel it was such a waste to give it to a mere inner sect disciple. Noel.n, Strength +1, Spirit +1, Cultivation +1, Lifeblood +1, Spirit Sword +1, Jiang Hao walked in the spirit herb garden. The surrounding bubbles flew to him one by one. He noticed that there were more blue bubbles than before. Today's harvest is pretty good, but it's a pity that I can't grow spirit stones. The thought of owing 1,000 spirit stones weighed on his mind. Although he had a lot of cheap spirit swords and pills, it couldn't fetch him so much even if he sold them all. If he could pick up some good elixirs, then he could sell them for a good price. Unfortunately, he hadn't come across any elixirs so far. Right now, I only have 160. 8 spirit stones. If I sell some spirit swords and elixirs, I can barely make up to 200. I'm still short of 800 spirit stones, thought Jiang Hao in dismay. Maybe I can take up some sect missions. At noon, after he was done tending to the spirit herbs, Jiang Hao headed to the law enforcement hall. The hall issued all kinds of missions. Yo, junior brother Jiang, it's been a long time since I've seen you here. It's rare to see you coming out of the spirit herb garden that you love so dearly. A man laughed behind him. He turned around to face a handsome man. Another man and a woman stood by his side. They weren't very old, but their cultivation wasn't bad. Chapter 9. Everyone avoided him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Senior brother Qi, said Jiang Hao, greeting him politely. Qi Yang was an inner sect disciple of Thunder Fire Peak. He was currently in the early phase of foundation establishment stage. They had been friends since their time as outer sect disciples. They got along well. But their bloodline was different, so they rarely saw each other anymore. You've reached the foundation establishment stage. So fast. Qi Yang suddenly exclaimed as he approached Jiang Hao. The two people by his side were also surprised. 19 was very young to have reached that stage. I was just lucky to reach the foundation establishment stage, Jiang Hao said with a smile. This was the trouble with not being able to conceal his cultivation level. Anybody could see it. He had to find a way to conceal his cultivation level. But he had to first think of a way to earn 1,000 spirit stones first. No matter how depressing it was, he had to fulfill the amount of compensation he owed to the Heavenly Joy Pavilion. Otherwise, they might just kill him. It seemed the Cliff of Broken Hearts was unable or unwilling to protect him. He couldn't understand why the Heavenly Joy Pavilion wanted to go to this extent for the sake of an inner sect traitor. Was Senior Sister Yun Roa telling the truth when she said that the master of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion thought highly of her? That he coveted her? Jiang Hao didn't think much of it. He didn't find Senior Sister Yun Roa that beautiful anyway when compared to the woman who had poisoned him. Senior brother and senior sister, let me introduce to you. This is my junior brother, Jiang Hao, who was under the same roof when I was still in the outer sect, said Qi Yang to the two people standing by him. It's rare to meet two outstanding disciples in the same place. The man next to him smiled. My name is Su Feng, and the person next to me is my junior sister, Liang Yu. Senior brother Su, senior sister Liang. It is very nice to meet you. Jiang Hao bowed his head in greeting. By the way, which branch is junior brother from? Liang Yu asked with a smile. Both wanted to befriend Jiang Hao. Such a young cultivator already in the foundation establishment stage was no less than a genius. The Cliff of Broken Hearts, said Jiang Hao. Su Feng and Liang Yu both looked surprised. The Cliff of Broken Hearts. Junior brother, by any chance, do you know who killed Yun Roa of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion? Asked Su Feng. The question made Jiang Hao uncomfortable. However, there was no use lying. I did, he said. Now, not only Su Feng and Liang Yu but also Qi Yang looked shocked. Su Feng and Liang Yu even deliberately put a few steps of distance between him and themselves. After chatting awkwardly for a while, the three of them left. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. By their reactions, it seemed Heavenly Joy Pavilion wasn't something to trifle with. He had never put an effort to build relationships with others in the Devil's sect, but he had eliminated a traitor that was going to betray the sect, so why was everyone avoiding him? In a corner, Su Feng looked at Qi Yang. You are familiar with junior brother Jiang, it seems. How talented is he? He is above average, said Qi Yang after a thought. Above average? Liang Yu looked surprised. How old is he? 19, I think. 2 years older than me, answered Qi Yang. Above average aptitude, 19 years old. How did he reach the foundation establishment stage? Su Feng asked curiously. Because he had a fortuitous encounter and his cultivation level soared. I think the foundation establishment stage should also be related to that fortuitous encounter, said Qi Yang doubtfully. L.RG, senior brothers and sisters, do you feel that something is wrong? Su Feng and Liang Yu had concocted a plan. When they looked at Jiang Hao, their eyes showed contempt. Junior brother, it's better not to get too close to him in the future. Su Feng looked in the direction of Jiang Hao. I was curious why the Cliff of Broken Hearts didn't try their best to protect him. Now I know. If he advanced through a fortuitous encounter, it means his path in the future is not easy. In other words, he has no value. After offending the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, there is definitely a disaster waiting for Jiang Hao in the future. So, don't get too close with him. It will make things difficult for the master. Su Feng had wanted to befriend Jiang Hao. Even now, he was in a dilemma. Such a young person in the foundation establishment stage was a genius. Geniuses were always promising and very useful. But since he had offended the Heavenly Joy Pavilion and advanced only because of a fortuitous encounter, Su Feng no longer wanted to be his friend. In fact, he was even slightly envious. He wasn't even at the foundation establishment stage. Qi Yang looked in the direction of Jiang Hao and remained quiet. Jiang Hao realized that the only missions who paid highly required him to either go outside of the sect or fulfill unrealistic demands. He could only do so much with his current limitations to his strength and other skills. He did discover that alchemy, forging, and talisman making were the most profitable among them. Unfortunately, he didn't know how to do any of those things. How about learning one for the time being, thought Jiang Hao. He knew he had no chance with alchemy and forging. Not only were they difficult to set up, but also required pill formulas and forging techniques which needed spirit stones to buy. Otherwise, with his knowledge about spirit herbs, he could have done it. Talisman making. Maybe I can buy some materials and give it a try. Having made up his mind, Jiang Hao decided to take on a simple mission to earn some spirit stones. Although it did seem far-fetched for him to be able to make talisman making into a lucrative side business, he couldn't afford to waste his time doing nothing. As for the method, he could figure it out as he did it. He shouldn't aim too high when starting out. In the end, he accepted a mission of tending to the pure young flower. 7 days, 20 spirit stones. The pay wasn't that bad, but the requirements were challenging. Fortunately, Jiang Hao had spent several years in the spirit herb garden, so he met the requirements adequately. This task was from the White Moon Lake. There were many geniuses there, and it was under the jurisdiction of the guardian elder. He had never seen this elder before. But that was not so unusual. The high-ranking masters and officials like the guardian elder, peak master, sect master, etc. were rarely seen. I'll buy some talisman making materials and instruction manuals first, then I'll go over to take a look, decided Jiang Hao. It said that the pure young flower is a holy medicine. I wonder if there's a purple bubble in it. If only the bubbles could produce spirit stones, all his problems would be solved. Chapter 10. I was still too naive. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. I was still too na.ve. White Moon Lake was located at a higher altitude in the Heavenly Note sect. The spiritual essence was dense. In this place, cultivation speed was faster than any other main bloodlines. It was no wonder that this place produced so many geniuses. But it was equally difficult to get accepted as a disciple in this place. The Cliff of Broken Hearts was different from this place. It was situated lower in status as well as location. Although the Cliff of Broken Hearts had many promising disciples, they weren't really famous or remarkable. Phew, I am finally here. Jiang Hao had bought some talisman making tools before arriving. If not for the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, he would have never gotten the chance to come here. Before the Heavenly Joy Pavilion got angry at him, he had felt that the Cliff of Broken Hearts was not bad either. But now, shaking his head, he approached the guard. He explained the purpose of his visit. Looking after the pure young flower. The fairy guard looked at Jiang Hao carefully. Are you sure you have experience in this field? Yes, of course. I am Jiang Hao, an inner sect disciple of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. I have been working in the spirit herb garden of the Cliff of Broken Hearts for a few years now, Jiang Hao said truthfully. Then follow me. The fairy guard led the way. Let me remind you. The pure young flower is about to bloom, so you need to take care of it very carefully. This is not an easy job. If you don't do it well, you will be punished. The fairy guard kindly reminded him. Thank you for your reminder, senior sister. I understand. Jiang Hao thanked her. This senior sister's eyes were clear. She looked honest. Not at all like senior sister Yunruo. She didn't try to befriend him, but she wasn't cold and rude to him either. She just did her job. Sure enough, not everyone in the devil sect was evil. But Jiang Hao could not really take that as an indication of her true personality for obvious reasons. My name is Zhou Chan, said the fairy guard. Since you have accepted the mission, you will need to come up here again after a few days. When you do, just ask for me. I will escort you. She led Jiang Hao to a courtyard. Under the guidance of senior sister Zhou, Jiang Hao got to know the person who took care of the courtyard. Elder Qian Su, a middle-aged beautiful woman in a green dress which flowed to the ground with a light blue belt around her waist and donning a muslin jacket, took care of the garden. She looked cold and disdainful. She was also the executive elder of the White Moon Lake. She looks like I owe her something and she is angry about it, thought Jiang Hao but didn't dare to say it aloud. As he looked around, he saw a white spirit herb that occupied a large portion of the land. The area around this herb was covered in frost. At the edge of the white frost was a scarlet-red gourd with a scorching aura coming from it. The gourd is filled with lava. What you need to do is to water the lava at the edge of the white frost every hour after noon, 6 times a day, Elder Qian Su explained. It's late today so you can start tomorrow. Of course. Understood, said Jiang Hao respectfully. After returning to his residence, he looked at his interface. Name. Jiang Hao, age. 19, cultivation. Early foundation establishment stage, cultivation method. Heavenly sound 100 revolutions, ability. 9 revolutions death substitution, unique, daily appraisal, can be learned, lifeblood. 16 out of 100, can be cultivated, cultivation. 20/100, can be cultivated, ability. 2 out of 3, cannot be obtained, although it's only by a little. I am happy that it is increasing very quickly, thought Jiang Hao. Maybe it won't take long for me to advance to the middle phase of foundation establishment stage, after all. But where will I find 1,000 spirit stones? I am going to try making those talismans. The minimum requirement for making talismans was the lowest, and it was also the cheapest. Unless he intended to make intermediate or high-grade talismans. He had to try, otherwise coming up with 1,000 spirit stones was impossible. The fastest way to get spirit stones was to refine pills. But the requirements were high, investment was even larger, and it took such a long time. Jiang Hao took out the newly purchased materials and manuals and read through it in his room. There were a total of 12 types of talismans recorded on them. The simplest one was the Divine Walk Talisman, which could speed up the pace of someone's walk. There were also the Heart Cleansing Talisman and the Fire Talisman. These 3 types of talismans were all needed for lifeblood refinement. A foundation establishment cultivator could ride a flying sword, strengthen his mind, and use spells with ease. Therefore, under normal circumstances, these talismans with low effects were not needed. However, these 3 types of talismans were also the most suitable for practice. As for the selling price, if 3 talismans sold even for 1 spirit stone, that would be a miracle. It would probably take a whole lot of them to reach his goal. Relying on these simple talismans wouldn't fetch him enough. He had to think big. He read the part about the Divine Traversing Talisman. Jiang Hao sat cross-legged on the side and calmed his mind. After a long while, his condition reached its peak. Then, he picked up the talisman pen, dipped it in cinnabar, and started to make the talisman. Each stroke was evenly and powerfully done, flowing like the clouds and the water. The spiritual essence gradually got imbued on the talisman paper. When the last stroke slowly fell, the talisman flickered and returned to normal. Is it done? Thought Jiang Hao, astonished. Is it really this easy to make a talisman? Jiang Hao spent the entire night practicing the Divine Traversing Talisman, the Heart Cleansing Talisman, and the Fire Talisman. He did not stop until all the materials were used up. A total of 30.1 talismans. After subtracting the cost of 2 spirit stones it took for the materials, he would profit by 3 spirit stones. Jiang Hao did some calculations. 3 spirit stones a day would mean 90 in a month and 270 spirit stones in 3 months. If I double the number of talismans, that will maybe fetch me 540 spirit stones in 3 months, assuming they even sold. Jiang Hao sighed. If he made more talismans and took on more missions, he might be able to reach the goal of 1,000 spirit stones in 3 months. As long as the Heavenly Joy Pavilion did not come up with something else, he might be able to submit 1,000 spirit stones within his time limit, but he had gotten the price of the talisman right, but there was no market for them. He had been too na.ve. After putting them on display for a long time, he earned 1 spirit stone. That wasn't even enough to cover for the spirit stones he had spent in buying the materials. Jiang Hao could do nothing but sigh. He bought some more materials to try to practice the talismans needed for the foundation establishment stage. After that, he went up to the White Moon Lake. Today was the day he would begin to tend to the pure yang flower.